What's up, everybody? Squirrel Man's back again. I'm right outside Chicago. Man, it snowed like crazy this morning. Like, I got all my stuff done, unloaded, and then, like, right as I was leaving, that snow just came down and, like, hammered, man. I mean, it was hard. And it was like a total blizzard going on when I finally got parked. I was going to drive like an hour to this TA, and then I saw this other truck stop on the way, and I know they charged me to park because I've been here before. But I said, screw it, man. It's not worth it. I'll pay the $25 rather than crash my truck. Um, I'm 41 years old. I got a lot of life experience by now. I know I got a lot of stories, crazy stories. I'm reminded of this story. When I was young, I was like 12 or 13 at the time. We lived in Virginia in this big neighborhood that was surrounded a golf course. And the neighborhood was like way up here, and then the golf course was like, the neighborhood like consumed the golf course, man. And all the time, me and my friends would be on our bicycles riding into that golf course because it was like an escape, you know. People can't get you when you go down to the golf course. They can't chase you in a car or anything like that because it's totally shut off. There's only like one way in to get into that golf course in a car. So one day, me and my buddy were down at the clubhouse, not in the clubhouse, but we were out in the parking lot just hanging around on our bicycles, just talking shit. And this guy pulls in that I'd recognize. He lived in the neighborhood. He has a beautiful Corvette, man. It was like a mid-70s model. It's like really clean, super clean. You could tell that was like his pride and joy. That was his baby, you know? And so he pulled in with his buddy, and they got out and got their clubs and walked into the clubhouse, and I didn't see him again. And me and my buddy, who's my neighbor, were sitting. I glanced over at the car, and I told him, I was like, hey, dude, I was like, that guy left his keys on the trunk of his car, man. And my buddy was like, really? And my buddy, he's a whole other story. This guy he was a funny guy, man. He's a total character, but that's like a whole other video. Anyway, and he was really easy to corrupt. He was a really good kid, but he was so easy to corrupt. It was like, thank God I had limits back then. But yeah, I said, hey, man, that guy left his keys on the trunk of the car. I said, dude, you know, we could take those keys and come back tonight and drive that dude's car. He was like, we could do that, man. I'm like, yeah. And we were like contemplating back and forth for like 15 minutes on whether or not this was a good idea. Cause I was like, I'm 12, 13 years old. I was like, man, I want to drive this Corvette, man. I really want to drive this thing, you know? Cause when you're a little kid and you see cars like that, you're like, whoa, man, that was like so cool, you know? I was like, now I have an opportunity. I could just swipe his keys. He'll probably think he lost them. He'll leave the car here overnight and come back and get it tomorrow. Right. And so we're going back and forth, talking about it and exploring the pros and cons, and I'm like really, really heavily considering it. I was like, oh my God, I really want to drive this car, man. All I gotta do is grab those keys and we can come back tonight after midnight, you know, because we used to sneak down to that golf course all the time. It was like all the time during the summer, you know, or during sleepovers. It was like mandatory. We always snuck out of the house and went down on the golf course. We basically lived on that golf course forever, you know. But so we went back and forth, and then I finally said to myself, I was like, nah. I was like, I can see this going sideways, man. I was like, I really want to do this. I know I could probably do it. I know I could drive the car, but there's so many other uninviting, you know, bad factors that could get sucked into this equation. I was like, I just don't want to risk it, you know, at this young age. So I did grab the keys, and he was like, dude, we're doing this. You're going to take it? You're going to take it? I said, yeah, man, I'm taking the keys. And then I rode my bicycle right up to the clubhouse. I walked in there, and the guy working behind the counter, I handed him the keys, and I told him what happened. And he was like, man, he was like, thank you so much, young man. That was really nice of you. And I'm like, fuck you, man. I was like, I really don't thank me. I was like, this sucks. I wanted to drive that car, you know? But I was like, I had to do the right thing. And I hate doing the right thing sometimes. I really hate it. I was like, because it just cost me a whole experience driving that Corvette, you know? But a lot of things I wasn't taking into account. I'm so glad I didn't do that, because that golf course was my dad's like pride and joy. My dad is such a golf guy. You know, he loves playing golf. That's a lot of what he does in his spare time. It's all he looks forward to. And if I had done something like that and gotten caught and shamed and embarrassed my dad in front of the whole neighborhood, and like he has to show his face in that clubhouse, you know, and that would have been just so humiliating to him and shitty on my part, you know, because he didn't do anything to deserve that, you know, and my dad always raised me right. So I made the right decision at the right time and didn't destroy life for my dad on the golf course, you know, because that would have been really, really messed up to do. The ironic part, which is so funny, is about a year later or so, I did steal a car, but it wasn't the neighbor's car. It was my parents' car, which is totally different, because when you steal your parents' car, you only have to deal with your parents. Stealing a stranger's car is completely different, and most likely will end up in a Grand Theft Auto charge, which is a huge felony, you know? So pick your battles there, you know? And the funniest part is I used to steal that car quite often. My mom had this old Dodge Caravan. We called it the Shaggin' Wagon. We took that a few times. And then when I got really, really stupid and foolish, I cannot believe I took my brother's truck. He had this red Ford Lightning. It was the first year they made that truck. It was so beautiful. That was his pride and joy. And thank God that he never woke up and found out that I was out and joyriding around in the town in his truck, because when I got home, he probably would have broke my arm and beat me to death with it. Like, I was so glad to this day that when we took that truck, nothing got broke, no one got hurt. It was just a good experience. I remember the first time we took that truck, it was me and my buddy Danny, that kid was always up to no good, and he was so good at corrupting people, me mainly, you know, and talking people into shit that they shouldn't be doing, you know. But we picked up that truck and went to the neighborhood next door and picked up this guy that I'll call Joey. That's not his real name, because he was 18 at the time. We were like 14. So I was like, dude, you're 18. You got a driver's license. I'll let you drive it. He's like, sweet, you know. So we got him, and then he was like, hey, man, I got a surprise for you guys. I was like, what? He's like, we're going to go pick up some friends of mine. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. So we go over to this house in this neighborhood I'd never been in before, and these two really good-looking girls come out, and they jump in the truck, and we all get in the truck, and then we go over to this Walmart that's across town, because back then, the town was a lot smaller. Now it's huge, you know, but back then it was a lot smaller, and it was just so much more fun to live there back then. So he's like, we get to behind the Walmart, and he's like, dude, come with me, man. I got another surprise for you. We go back behind the Walmart into the woods up over this hill, and on the other side of the hill is the river, and there's a rope swing. And I'm like, I'm so young, my eyes lit up. I was like, dude, we're about to have a lot of fun, man. We did. We hit that rope swing for like hours until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, right before the sun was getting ready to come up. And then we all left and dropped the girls off, and nobody got hurt, nothing got broken. It was a great night. I'm so glad I got away with that, because it was such a fun experience. But anyways, yeah, that was the story of taking things that don't belong to you, but weighing your odds and ends, and not screwing your neighbor, because that would have been so bad. Like the lesson I learned here is, yeah, like I said before, if I would have got caught, I guarantee you I would have gotten a shit ton of trouble. But it would have been a different kind of trouble, because it's up to your parents whether or not they want to press charges on you. A neighbor, a stranger, I guarantee he's going to press charges on you. But the funny thing about that guy, Joey, years later, he actually got himself pinched for a murder charge. It's a true story. Him and another guy that lived in that neighborhood that were always into bad stuff, man. always into bad stuff. The other guy, we'll call him Alvin. That's not his real name, but Joey and Alvin decided to go into this guy's house one day and rob him for I think that guy was holding drugs for him or something, but he went in there to rob the guy. They ended up shooting him, killing him dead, and then Joey and Alvin went to prison, and Alvin's still in there to this day, but Joey rolled on Alvin and took a lesser charge and got out, and last time I heard, he's out walking around, which I was like blown away when I heard this, I wasn't super surprised because I knew these guys and I knew what kind of characters they were. And this is just to paint a picture of the idiots I used to hang out with when I was young and stupid and didn't know any better. And thank God I grew up and got smarter and wiser and stopped hanging out with people like that. But that's just an old story from when I was young, an experience I had. And one time in my life when I'm so glad I did the right thing, because like I said, if I had shamed my dad, I would have felt so bad about that forever. And I love you, Dad. I know you watch these videos. So aren't you glad I did the right thing? All right, guys, like, share, subscribe. Common sense ain't common.